Greetings, BookTube. Welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg, and I am here today with a small book haul from the U.S. Naval Institute Press. Every now and then, I like to go into their stacks and see what they have and see what I might have missed. I'm not sure. I think they were having a sale. Yeah, I think I might have gotten these from their Clear the Deck sale, which is always ongoing, and I think they add new books to it from time to time. So I scored some new books here. I think this will be a relatively quick video. I have 6 books, as opposed to normally hundreds, what I normally do. So hang out with me for 6 books if you can. So again, all Naval Institute Press publications, and I have a couple other books by this gentleman. I still haven't read yet, but I'm working on it, and this just seems like it would nicely complete my collection of his books and also give me new reading material and ideas. This is The Sailor's Bookshelf, 50 Books to Know the Sea by Admiral James Stavridis. I think I've shown other books by him on this channel. His most recent ones were... and again, this book is brand new. It's 2021, pretty much. Hello. I know that he's written a few. They're not telling me the names of his books, but I have them. Anyway, let me give you a quick synopsis. Obviously, it covers 50 books, but let's see what they have to say about it here. Let's see. Admiral Stavridis, a leader in military international camera glitches, international affairs and national security circles, shares his love of the sea and some of the sources of that affection. The Sailor's Bookshelf offers synopses of 50 books that illustrate the history, importance, lore, and lifestyle of the oceans and of those who go down to the sea in ships. Stavridis colors those descriptions with glimpses of his own service. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that was McRaven who wrote Sea Stories. But they call it sea stories in popular parlance, that not only clarify his choices, but also show why he is held in such high esteem among his fellow sailors. Divided into 4 main categories, the oceans, explorers, sailors in fiction, and sailors in nonfiction, Admiral Stavridis' choices will appeal to old salts, as well as those who have never known the sights of the ever-changing seascape, nor breathed the tonic of an ocean breeze. The result is a navigational aid that guides readers through the realm of sea literature, covering a spectrum of topics that ranges from science to aesthetics, from history to modernity, from solo sailing to great battles. Among these eclectic choices are guides to ship handling and navigation, classic fiction that pits man against the sea, celebrations of great achievements, and the lessons that come with failure, economic competition, and its stepbrother, combat. Explorations of the deep, and poetry that beats with the pulse of the wave. Some of the included titles are familiar to many, while others are likely less well known, but are welcome additions to this encompassing collection. Admiral Stavridis has chosen some books that are relatively recent, and he recommends other works that have been around much longer and deserve recognition. So that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, Mutiny on the Bounty is here. Oh, yeah. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is cool. So, The Outlaw Ocean. Naval Ship Handler's Guide. Oh, this is fantastic. So, I just thought that'd be fun to leaf through and kind of see what books he has read or has been influenced by. And I have 2 of his other books, so eager to check in and see what he is recommending. Okay, next book I picked up, very kind of different. It's so different that it appealed to me. You know that I enjoy kind of delving into lesser known intelligence matters, things with CIA, FBI, that kind of stuff. This is a little over 200 pages, well, about 240 pages, and then a bunch of stuff in the notes. But check this out. This is MH Chaos, MH/Chaos. The CIA's Campaign Against the Radical New Left and the Black Panthers by Frank J. Refalco. And that is put out, again, Naval Institute Press. I was reading this a few times before I decided to get it, but I was like, you know what, why not? Just for the price wasn't too bad. So I was like, let's try it. It says here, Operation MH/Chaos was the code name for a secret domestic spying program conducted by the CIA in the late 60s and early 70s, after it was charged with unmasking possible foreign influences on the student anti-war movement. CIA counterinsurgency officer Frank Refalco was a member of the Chaos Special Operations Group. His inside account of the controversial operation provides information never before brought to light. In the book, Refalco explains that by 1969, the group included 60 officers and their informants who reported on the activities of U.S. citizens abroad and infiltrated foreign anti-war organizations that might have ties to U.S. groups. Eventually, he says, the program was expanded to include domestic leftists or countercultural groups with no discernible connection to the anti-war movement, including women's liberation groups, Students for a Democratic Society, and the Black Panther Party. The group disbanded following the Watergate scandal that involved 2 former CIA officers. MH Chaos was exposed by the New York Times in 1974, and further details were revealed during congressional hearings that prompted the government to launch investigations into CIA surveillance activities within the U.S. Refalco refutes the charges made by the Times and takes issue with the government findings. He makes the case that their activities were justified and that the CIA was the logical agency to collect information. The author argues his point by providing details secretly collected by his group against the New Left and black extremists. The book describes how MH Chaos began, how it was staffed, and how it was transformed into an anti-terrorist unit before it ceased operation. The first book to reveal such details, it also calls attention to the consequences suffered by the American counterintelligence community because of the government investigations. So a little bit of controversy there, for sure. And it'd be interesting to get a little bit more background. I've never heard of this operation before and did not know about the expose by the New York Times in 1974. And so this is a former CIA officer's rebuttal. So it should be pretty interesting, and I'll be interested to see how his argument plays out. So MH Chaos. Sorry for the glare. Very glossy cover. Yeah. So I picked that one up. All right, this is a slim little volume, but it sounded so familiar when I saw the title. So I don't know if I've read it somewhere long in the past, but I don't think I have. And there's something on the cover I'm trying to pull off. A little piece of tape. There we go. Got it off. Okay. This is Guests of the Emperor. The Secret History of Japan's Mukden POW Camp by Linda Getz Holmes. As you can see, tiny little book. But I'm guessing it packs a punch. Let's see here. In World War II, more than 36,000 American men, mostly military but some civilian, were thrown into Japanese POW camps and forced to labor for companies working for Japan's war effort. At Japan's largest fixed military prison camp, Mitsubishi's huge factory complex at Mukden, Manchuria, more than 2,000 American prisoners were subjected to cold, starvation, beatings, and even medical experiments while manufacturing parts for Zero fighter planes. Those lucky enough to survive the ordeal required the efforts of an OSS rescue team and a special recovery unit to make it home alive. The dramatic story that unfolded at Mukden is told in rare detail by Holmes, who spent 2 decades tracking down the POWs. Wow. In addition to the well-researched story of the brutal captivity and forced labor at the hands of the Japanese that these POWs endured, she shows conclusively for the first time that some Americans at Mukden were singled out for experiments by Japan's infamous biological warfare team. And then the back of the book says a little bit more. If you're okay, I think this is going to be a quick video. I'm just going to read a little bit more about this. Again, it's a slim book, but wow, what kind of passion and dedication for 2 decades of your life. You're hunting down these POWs to interview them and find out what happened there. It's 125 pages here. But let's see here. Like an onion, Holmes peels away the layers of secret horrors, one layer at a time. at the Mukden prisoner of war camp. At last, we see the proof of Japanese medical experiments by the notorious Unit 731 on American prisoners at Mukden, the largest fixed POW camp in the empire. She carefully documents the use of germ warfare experiments upon the men and the endless brutality and torture of the prisoners by Japanese guards and Japanese nationals. The full story of the 4 men who sought to escape is told in detail, and Holmes traces not just their escape, but their capture and the abuse of the remaining POWs in revenge for the loss of face, in quotes, by the guards. Holmes spares no one in telling the truth about the Mukden camp, including the utter incompetence of most American officers, especially the ranking officer, Major Stanley H. Hawkins. Few ever cared about the suffering of their subordinates and were willing to steal their food and medicine for their personal use. It is not a story of honor, but truth is rarely pretty. A magnificent work of research and narrative that is destined to be the definitive work about the Mukden camp. And that was for a blurb. That was from a blurb by Roger Mansell, director of the Center for Research of Allied POWs under the Japanese. So, yeah. It's a drawing of the Bataan survivors, the Bataan Death March survivors. There's not much to show in here, though. Some pictures of the prisoners and some line drawings, you know. Anyway, it sounded intriguing. Also, I didn't know about the Mukden camp, so picked it up. I will link Naval Institute Press's link below, or their website below, so you can check it out. And actually, I might link it straight to their Clear the Deck sale. So if you just want to browse, there's pages and pages of books that are really marked down. Okay, so this one looks really interesting, and it's kind of different, kind of psychological. Goes into psychology a bit. I love finding new things. This is called Bold Endeavors: Lessons from Polar and Space Exploration by Jack Stuster. Or Stuster. Little nice paperback, trade paperback here. So let me just read to you a little bit about what this goes into, and I'll show you some of the chapters and stuff. This classic reference is considered the best single source of information on how to facilitate human adjustment and performance in long-term isolation. It is filled with exciting stories of survival, the exploits of explorers, military personnel, scientists, and astronauts, along with expert analyses of failed expeditions and lessons learned. Jack Stuster identifies the principles of habitability and presents more than 200 specific recommendations to help individuals in confinement that are relevant to a variety of space and earthbound conditions, including polar, underwater, and underground exploration and habitation. In fact, nearly all human relationships that involve small groups of people living and working together in isolated areas can benefit from this study because it provides proven guidelines for avoiding behavioral problems that affect performance in these circumstances, often with tragic consequences. So, and this is Jack Stuster. He was a vice president and principal scientist of a behavioral sciences research firm, and he specializes in the measurement and enhancement of human performance in extreme environments. So some of the things it goes into, it has pictures of people living in isolation, like in the polar extremes. This was Admiral Richard Byrd at Advanced Space. It goes into a description of the research, so it kind of gives you the methodology before it gets into some of the case studies and stuff, and the recommendations. These are artist works of like envisioning planetary exploration and what that might look like. But let's go to the chapters, and I'll kind of, let's see. So part 1 covers the research, again, the methodology. Part 2 goes into the study results, and it breaks it down into certain categories such as sleep, clothing, exercise, workload, leadership, medical and psychological support, group interaction, food preparation, things like that. It goes on. And then part 3 ends with the implications for the future. So doesn't that sound kind of interesting, though? And I'm always intrigued by how people relate to one another in extreme conditions, and how, to me, that's like, those make the best horror stories, because they can become horror stories when human beings start to psychologically break down in extremis. And yeah, so there's lots of pictures, drawings, photographs of explorers, and it's fascinating to me. So, bold endeavors, lessons from polar and space exploration. Okay, 2 more books, guys. This could be like one of my shortest videos ever. Well, I've got a little hankering for some submarine history as well, and finally got those books by Ian Ballantyne, I think. Well, I got The Deadly Deep. That was the one I was really wanting. And so this one, talk about uplifting, not very cheerful. This is Disasters of the Deep, a comprehensive survey of submarine accidents and disasters by Edwin Gray. Another Naval Institute Press book. This one, this came out, first published as Few Survived in Great Britain in 1986, but this is the 3rd revised and updated edition, and this is 2003. And then it's kind of gone through different publishers, but I'm glad to have this version from Naval Institute Press. So I'll read a little bit to you here. When originally published in 1986 as Few Survived, this book was the first complete record of submarine accidents. Sadly, since then there have been a number of further fatal disasters which now necessitate an updated and revised edition. Indeed. Disasters of the Deep is, like its predecessor, very far from being merely a list of what was lost where, when, and why. For Edwin Gray, arguably the leading authority on the subject, examines the most important incidents in considerable detail, analyzing what went wrong and describing the attempts made at rescuing the crew and or the vessel. In this way, he effectively traces the development of the submarine from the earliest experimental submersibles of the late 18th century down to the nuclear-powered leviathans of today, describing in parallel the developments of underwater rescue operations and survival techniques. Among the more extraordinary episodes are that of the Affray, the whereabouts of which were revealed by a ghost, and of Operation Jennifer, in which Howard Hughes was asked by the CIA to assist in the recovery of a Soviet missile submarine. The account of the recent Kursk disaster is particularly important and is analyzed in detail. So I'm really glad that this was an updated version and includes the Kursk, because that is like the most terrifying and most recent example of just a massive submarine failure and massive loss of life. The appendices include the most comprehensive and accurate list of submarine disasters ever printed up to late 2002, thanks to the cooperation of the U.S., French, Italian, Danish, and Japanese navies, as well as that of the Royal Navy Submarine Museum and the German U-Boat Archive. As well as being an invaluable reference work for naval historians, Disasters of the Deep is a gripping read for the layman, and that's me, or laywoman, you know what I'm saying. Lots of pictures in the center, but it's going to cover a lot of different things here. Pretty exciting, guys. They're always great books at Naval Institute Press, I tell you what. Oh, and we'll close on this last one, which is a novel. I've kind of been amassing novels lately, and especially of I think this is the Vietnam? Yes, I think this one covers the Vietnam War. I hadn't heard of this book, but I've been pleasantly surprised by some of the fiction coming out of Naval Institute Press. And in fact, I reviewed one of them, A Quiet Cadence, for Historical Novel Society, and I fell in love with that book. It was like one of the best reads I had of 2020 or 2019. Anyway, this is a novel that I just came across, and it's called A Common Virtue by James A. Hawkins. hardcover novel here. It says here, becoming a man is difficult, even in the best of circumstances. But when it must be done in 1968, with the year of the monkey set to explode onto the cities and battlefields of a war-torn Vietnam, it is only the very best who make the grade. A common virtue has the immediacy and punch of today's fears as it draws on yesterday's headlines. When the armies of Ho Chi Minh push across the demilitarized zone on a scale never thought possible and simultaneously strike at hundreds of targets, American Marines are at the forefront, dependent on information from a special reconnaissance force that is the only thing that can stop Hanoi from using a New Year's opportunity to seize the country. Unfolding against this background is the story of Paul Jackson, the sole survivor of a hillside massacre. A sniper and reconnaissance innovator, his epic march through the annals of the horrific bureaucracy that is the U.S. military in 1968 is the heart of this story. As an 18-year-old Marine, he learns what he must do to survive, what he must do to excel, and what he must do to fit into the most exclusive military fraternity in the world. A common virtue is about the other half of heroism, the part that pits a warrior against an American public that despises his uniform, against internal factions that brand him a coward, and against a beautiful woman who wants nothing more than for him to stay home and love her. It is about growing into manhood in a toxic America and a world gone mad. Tough choices, painful experiences, and an instinct for survival work to create a leader of legend. Exciting, historical, and far-reaching, a common virtue is an ambitious and explosive creation, one that could have been written only by one who was there. So, and this is our author, James Hawkins. He spent more than 11 years as a U.S. Marine and is a veteran of the Vietnam War. All right. And this is his first novel, so congratulations. I'm looking forward to reading it because I really loved Quiet Cadence, which was also that gentleman's first novel. I'm finding that we're getting more novels now of Vietnam, and it's really sobering and just kind of makes you more understanding of the trauma that a lot of these gentlemen or these ex-soldiers have, coming back and living with the what we now know as PTSD. And so I'm glad to see more novels coming out, is what I'm trying to say, from that era, from the soldier's experience, because this was a soldier who wrote this novel, and the other book I loved, Quiet Cadence, was also by a former Marine. So there you have it. That is my most recent escapade into the hallowed halls of the U.S. Naval Institute Press's book sales, and what they got going on. And sorry, there's been a lot going on here, but still love my books, still making time to read, but not as much as normal, just because we're getting ready to move here. Yay! So that's good news. I'm sure I've mentioned it in more detail in one of my other videos. So, you just want to hear more about what's going on with Peg and Martine and our crew. And just take a look at some of my other videos. I always start off usually with something personal and let you know what's going on. In this case, I'm ending it with something personal. I have more videos to make. I'm getting more books from publishers that are coming across the desk here at the History Shelf. And still doing my review work, and still, that's not my full-time job at all. That's what I do in my spare time, as well as, BookTube and, of course, my family. We got to make time for each other. So I hope you're all doing well out there. And again, this is a briefer video for me, but I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of these books. If anything appeals to you, I will include the link below for the Naval Institute Press's website. Please browse around, see what you like. Let me know if you ended up getting anything. I'd be curious to know. All right, BookTube, until next time, thanks for coming by the History Shelf. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you soon. Bye.